Okay, favorite bands. A to Z. We're on day 3. So now we're on C. And not quite as many on the short list for me as B. I tried to rattle them all off in the last video, and it's like, whew, this is taking some time. Um, but, I kind of had an indication of what the clear winner would be, but I gotta be really honest, I love the runner-up, and my winner here is a band that gets a lot of respect, and the runner-up are popular, but they don't get very much critical respect. But and there's some other great stuff in here, but yeah, it's gonna be the Clash. The Clash really kind of changed my way of thinking. Joe Strummer's lyrics, of course. I loved Mick Jones's work in here, and as soon as I got into the Clash, I had to check out all of the big Audio Dynamite, and unlike most people, I really like it all eras. Topper on drums, of course, Paul Simonon on bass. When it was all 4 of them, there were a couple lineup changes at the start and then at the end, but, all 4 of them in the group, I mean, this was the group to take over the world, unfortunately only for a very short time. And, the best punk band, in my opinion, the most talented one, the only one that went off to do more interesting things. They debuted with their very raw, punky, eponymous debut. They did kind of the same thing on Give 'Em Enough Rope, but they started to go with the singles, like more kind of reggae and stuff. And White Man in Hammersmith Palace came out, and that was a non-album single, and it's like, whoa, like, these guys are on a different path. And then they put out this, which often gets regarded as one of the best punk albums of all time, or one of the best albums of all time, and I'd go with the latter because it's not really punk anymore. And I don't mean that as a slight. They just started tackling other things, and then they went farther out on Sandinista and Combat Rock, which both were in the... I love those records too. They were in the running, but, I gotta be honest with myself. It's probably this one is the most concise thing. Sandinista has some of my favorite Clash tracks on it, as does Combat Rock. Yeah, but, one of the most stellar albums of all time. Came out in 1979 in the UK, didn't quite make it, and made it 1980 in North America. So some people list it as best album of the 70s, and some people forget and list it as best of the 80s. Runner-up band is going to be Collective Soul. I love Collective Soul so much. I've seen them so many times, and for me they're classic. And this, to me, was where they peaked. Their 5th album, all 5 of the first 5 are absolute post-grunge classics, in my opinion. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, like, what about CCR? What about John Coltrane? What about Cream? Those are way mightier. But for me, I've always loved these guys. They've always resonated with me. I made a couple videos on them, but... I don't know, it's not really a good YouTube topic because people my age that are watching YouTube aren't usually looking for Collective Soul videos. I think a lot of that crowd has kind of, grown up or maybe even grown out of the band. And the people that you see at their shows aren't really the type that are going to say, let's see what some 30-year-old guy says on YouTube. Like, yeah, like, who cares? Runners-up for this video, Cake. Love me some Cake, the band. Captain Beyond, of course. Caribou, if you guys know that one. The Cars, love me some Cars. Always have the time of day for listening to the Cars. Cave-In from Boston. Specifically their, Creative Eclipses, Jupiter, Tides of Tomorrow, Antenna era. But, just the whole thing, like the whole band. Chemical Brothers, one of the best electronic duos of all time. Churches, or Chvrches. Don't like the spelling of their band, but I like that band a lot, and I'm looking forward to their new release this summer in August. George Clanton, who I've become a huge fan of since Slide came out, and the Nick Hexum collaborative record. I didn't really know him before I heard Slide. Coltrane, of course, I said that. Cream, the first supergroup, really, one of the best ones. They get called that, but you know, the other two weren't really household names yet. Clapton was coming up, but the other two weren't. And now with supergroups, you have to know the names of all the guys beforehand. But that's what kind of coined the whole term. CCR, got to get some Credence in the tape deck. Crosby, Stills, Nash, or also Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Of course, classic, Deja Vu, some of the greatest songs. Coldplay, you know, hate on me if you want. Coldplay, yes, they're popular. That's why people hate on them. But they were popular for a reason. Like, their stuff is pretty good. Especially, like, you know, Rush of Blood to the Head and all that kind of stuff. And The Cure. I saw The Cure play, and they played for 3 hours. Barely any bands do that. Springsteen used to do that back in the day. Maybe still does. McCartney does that, but very few bands do, especially legacy bands. They can't be bothered. Seeing The Cure live was just absolutely amazing. Loved it. And love, you know, all the stuff Robert Smith puts his voice on. So yeah, so tomorrow's D-Day. So yeah, we'll check you out for that. Shoutouts to Sea of Tranquility, and also yeah, let me know your favorite D bands in the comments, because none of these, or C bands, D bands are tomorrow. So peace out everyone, and thanks for watching.